Aloha YouTubers, Justin Fuller here today, and I'm outside of a 2022 Honda CR-V EX. So if you're wondering what this car has to offer, and of course, how it stacks up against the competition, we're gonna go over it today. So let's hop on in and check it out. So one of the first things we should probably talk about is what's underneath the hood of this car. So I'm gonna pull you on in here and talk about it. You've got a 1.5 liter turboed engine. This is putting out 190 horsepower and 179 feet-pound of torque. So you've got quite a bit of power coming out of a little engine, giving you all this additional space behind the engine you see. So if you wanted to run auxiliary lines for amps, lights, whatever it may be, know that you're gonna have that space to take advantage of. All right guys, so while we're at the front of this car, of course, we should do a horsepower comparison so you can understand how does this car really stack up to what's out there in the market. So I'm gonna throw that up on the screen so you can see how this car stacks up to what's out there as far as competition goes. From here, we'll move on over to miles per gallon. All right guys, so let's talk about miles per gallon. This car gets 28 in the city and 34 on the highway, so combined you're looking at roughly 30 miles per gallon. Now you can move to that all-wheel drive model, but know that you are gonna give up, I think it's about a mile on each side, so just be aware of that. I'll throw it up on the screen. And then additionally, if you're really looking to save as far as miles per gallon, you might wanna look at the Honda CR-V as far as the hybrid model goes. So I'll throw up on the screen so you can see what that is as far as miles per gallon too. Now, after you've understood that there are a couple different versions of this vehicle, you probably wanna know how this particular one stacks up to what's out there in the market. So I'm gonna throw that up on the screen so you can understand how does this car stack up to the competition. All right guys, so before we do a walk around, I wanna talk to you about the different trim levels. This is an EX sitting right behind me. It's $30,530 after you pay that destination charge. Now below that, they have a special edition this year. Now, just a heads up, typically when you see a special edition land, that means that the next coming year, you're gonna see a body style change. So if you're considering this car, know that there are gonna be some changes probably moving into next year. Now below that is the LX. So you're looking at LX, special edition, EX. Now above this is the EXL, and then above that is the Touring. So I want you to understand the differences between these models, right? So if you drop down to that special edition, I'm gonna throw up on the screen, of course, how much money you'll save, and then a list of items that you're gonna be giving up to save that money so you can understand, hey, is this the right model for me, or should I drop down to that special edition? Now, after you've had a chance to look at that, we should probably talk about, hey, if I wanna climb up to that EXL model, right? So I'm gonna do the same thing. I wanna show you how much money it's gonna cost you extra, and then of course, what are the extra items that I'm gonna get if I jump up to that EXL? So now that you've taken a look at both what's below it and above it, let's go to a walk around. All right guys, so the 2022 Honda CR-V EX starts off with an 18-inch alloy wheel. As you wrap around, you've got an LED setup, so LED daytime running lights and headlights, and of course this car does offer fog lights. Now moving around to the front, you've got a black painted grille, right? You got the honeycomb finish. This right here, what you're seeing, is actually gonna be used part of your Honda sensing package to detect those cars in front of you, and then as you move up the windshield, you're gonna see a trapezoid cut out right there. That is also gonna play a role. So when we hop in the car, I'll explain a little bit about that, but just to give you a heads up, when you're looking like you're gonna rear into another car, the car can actually apply the brakes to help prevent an accident. That's called collision mitigation braking. It also has lane departure warning systems and correction features, right? And then there is a, one that keeps you centered in your lane. So we'll go over this in just a second, but I just want you to know that's what you're seeing on the car. Now, as we wrap around the side, of course, this one does have breakaway mirrors, and then they have added the turn indicators into the mirror. So kind of cool that you see that. In previous generations, you had to go up to that EXL. Now, on top of this car, you do have a moonroof. So one of those things that you will be losing if you drop down a model. Just be aware of that if you went down to that special edition. Now, as we continue to wrap around the car, of course, it has black trim along the bottom and the wheel wells. This is a nice finish of red right here. And then as we wrap around the back, you've got your LED, tail lights. Of course, you've got your badging right here, and then your nice chrome brow along with a nice spoiler finish with the LED indicator in it to let people know you're braking. So let's talk about cargo space. All right, guys, so here we are in the back end of this Honda CR-V. So the first thing I want to point out, of course, as we pull out and around, is that this is a manual setup. If you were looking for that powered tailgate, you were going to want to go to that EXL. Now, the secondary thing I'll point out is this, of course, is an accessory that they've added to the car. This is that cargo liner or cargo tray. So let me get that out of the way with some other items. Now, back here, just so I can talk about dimensions first, this is 39.2 cubic feet of space, right? So what I want to do is throw up a comparison on the screen so you can see how does this car's cargo space behind that second row compare to other vehicles out there in the market. So after you've taken a look at that, let's talk about some other features the car has. Of course, I have this privacy divider, right? So I can come in here, I can drop this in, help protect my items. And of course, you do have privacy tint running along the top as well. Now down here, I'll point out a couple things. First, you can see I have this lip right here. I can make this flush if I want. I can actually pull this piece up and set that there. So it's kind of nice to know that you can create a lip if you want, if you've got items back here that you're worried about rolling around. Now, while we're here, I'll flip this up and talk to you. You do have a full diameter spare, meaning it's the full height of a tire, just the not full width of a tire. And then you've got your jack and accessories and this funnel right here, which I'll talk about a little bit more here in just a second. Now back here, I can of course flip my seats down. I can simply pull my seats, which all of my seat belts, it looks like are buckled, so I'm gonna have to unconnect them, and then I'll show you what it looks like flipped down. Now that I got my seats flipped down, I'm gonna go ahead and remove this piece right here, just so I can create a lot of space for you to really visualize here. So now that I've got this out, you can really see where that lip lives, right? So if I was going camping, or if I just needed this to be flat because I was loading up items, I may want this like this. And it's actually a nice flat finish here. It doesn't slope way up dramatically, so kind of cool. Now, this dimension right here that you can see all the way up to that front seat is 75.8 cubic feet of space, right? So I'm going to throw up a comparison on the screen so you can understand how does this car stack up against other vehicles out there in the market. Now, after you've taken a look at that, let's talk about what we're seeing back here. So of course I can see that there are air vents in the back of this vehicle. I've got a tan interior with like that wood grain finish and then black across the door sills as you see it all the way through the car, and that's to prevent glare. Now these handles back here that you probably saw me do earlier, this is what throws those seats down. So now that you're taking a look at that, we kind of understand the dimensions of cargo space and how it stacks up. Let's hop into that second row. All right, guys, so here we are in the second row of this vehicle, and it's surprisingly spacious. You know, when you look at this car, you kind of wonder, hey, can a six-footer sit behind a six-footer or a bigger guy? Absolutely you can. I'm 6 foot 250. I can easily fit back here, and I've got lots of space here. So to give you an idea, you've got 40.4 inches of leg space here. So know that you got quite a bit working here. So while we're talking about that leg space though, I will throw something up on the screen so you can see how this car stacks up to the competition out there. Now, once you've taken a look at that, I just want to briefly touch you and walk you through kind of what's back here. The first being on the doors, of course, you got this cloth interior finish with a different material right here. I've got the black along here so you don't get anything dirty, the black across the seals so that I don't have glare. And then of course I've got the faux wood finish, which is just kind of a nice look to it. They give you of course one pocket, and in true Honda fashion, you're not gonna get that second pocket. I don't understand or know why. Now back here, I pointed out earlier, you do have air vents, and then under that you have 2.5 amp 2 USBs. So know that you have 2 here and 2 up there, so 4 in the car, so plenty of spaces to charge anything that you want to use on a road trip. So as we head into the front row of this car, I want to point out a couple things. First off, one, you do have a power seat on this side. If you drop down a model, that is going to be something you give up. Now, if you jump up to that EXL, you're going to get that 4-way power seat on the other side as well. And then of course over here, your normal controls, right? So windows, window locks, and then of course my mirror controls, right? And then I've got a tweeter in the door, and we'll hop in and go over the rest of this. All right, guys, so here we are in the front row of this vehicle. And the first thing I'll point out is that you've got quite a bit of leg space up here. You've got, I believe, 41.3 inches of leg space. So you can see that I've got a ridiculous amount if I want to take advantage of it, right? So just know that you can do that if you absolutely want to. While we're here though, I do want to throw a comparison up. So I'm going to throw that up on the screen so you can see how this specific vehicle compares to other vehicles out there in the market. Now, after you've taken a look at that, I want to kind of walk you through this dash before we start to go over all the bells and whistles, right? So as we come across, of course, I'll point out the seats and kind of the textures that you're going to see. So it has this cross seam look to it. It's actually nice. And the material is actually pretty sturdy. And as far as preventing like stains and anything like that, it's actually really good for it. So you've got some good materials running here. Now, as you move across the door, same as kind of that back, you've got the gray to the black finish, the black steel trims to prevent glare, and then of course that wood faux finish here. And then when you come across the top in the front, it's all black, right? So you've got the matte kind of black finish here with like the gloss look. You've got your touchscreen here, of course, you know, your steering wheel, your speaker system, and everything else. So let's go ahead and walk through all the dash buttons. So the first group of buttons you're gonna come as we move from left to right in the dash here is gonna be some safety features, right? So I mentioned Honda sensing earlier and some of those features that lived up in the front of the car. The first being is my road departure mitigation system, right? So if I start to veer off the side of the road, it can be an audible alert and then actually shake the wheel to say, hey, wake up, pay attention. So this is if I'm leaving the lane this way, right? Now, below that, you're gonna see my button for collision mitigation braking. So I mentioned this earlier, there's a radar and we saw that little square down in the grill, and there's actually a camera up here. These are gonna help detect cars in front of you. So this is gonna work for your adaptive cruise control, but also if it's looking like I'm gonna hit another car, it can first alert me and then actually apply the brakes to help prevent the accident. So all these features I can turn on and off from right here, and I'll show you some additionals here as well. Now, vehicle stability assist, this works with your traction control, so in the event that I go into a skid and start to, start to skid, it'll transfer power to whichever wheel is gaining better traction. Now, while we're on the hunt for Honda sensing features, I want to talk about 2 others. The first being lane keep assist right here. So if I have my main button on, and you'll know it's on because you'll see ACC and LKS appear in green, right? What that stands for is adaptive cruise control and lane keep assist. So lane keep assist, if I turn this feature on, you'll see these dotted lines. When they fill in solid, it means it's now using this camera up here to detect those lines on the road. So if I start to drift to the left or the right because I'm distracted, it will actually keep me centered as long as I'm going over 45 miles an hour and those are filled in solid. Now the other part to that is adaptive cruise control. So I have classic cruise. If I want to flip to that, just press and hold, and then it'll say cruise mode selected. Now if I press and hold again, it'll flip over to adaptive cruise control. Now adaptive cruise control is set up to where I can get up to my speed, press set. From there, I can set the distance it keeps between cars in front of me using this button. The more boxes that you see up there, the more space it's gonna keep between me and that car in front of me, right? So easy enough to use either one of these features, and that's how it works in relation to the collision mitigating braking system, and of course, then just using my adaptive cruise control as far as, you know, taking long trips and things of that nature. So as far as sensing goes, you've got quite a few different features here working to your advantage. Now on top of that, of course, you do have 2 front airbags, 2 side airbags, and then 2 full curtain airbags to help protect everyone in the car. So a lot of safety goes into this car because they sell more of this vehicle than anything else out there in the market. Now, on the steering wheel, a few different controls here. The first being my Bluetooth controls to answer, call, hang up, and use voice command. You can also use this with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto if I press and hold to either ask Siri or Google to do something. Now my I button here is gonna jump through all these different screens that I have up here. So whether I want audio, I want Bluetooth, I wanna switch to kilometers an hour, you know what I mean, tripometer information, or my attention alertness monitor, right? So several different things here along with oil life. If I just wanna hop in and say, hey, where am I at my oil life? When I get down to 15%, this will shoot you an alert and it'll shoot you a code. You'll see like A1, A2, or B1 or B2, letting you know exactly what they're gonna recommend you when you go in. So if you're curious about that or you feel like you're being upsold, you can check that online. They've been doing this for years. Now, this menu right here is gonna allow you to jump through some of the menus that you have, right? So source-wise, I can jump between FM, AM, Sirius XM, USB, Bluetooth, whatever I have up and running, right? So just be aware that that is what this is gonna do. And then the right side of the steering wheel, we just went over. Now over here, of course, I have my light controls and then my fog light controls, easy enough to access, and then my windshield wipers pull down for the front and then control the back on the tips of the stalk. So now that we've gone through that, let's talk about the touchscreen. Here we are on the touchscreen, and I just want to briefly walk you through a couple different things, and then I want to talk about some cool new stuff that I'm going to be showing in a new video. So the first being kind of your general layout here. Very easy to understand as far as what's here and what's going on. If I ever want to move stuff, it's pretty simple as far as how I can do it, right? Very easy for most users to run through this system, which I can't always say about everybody from my, my experience selling cars and now selling software and hardware to dealerships. I run into a lot of systems that are kind of hard to figure out. So audio-wise, I first want to talk you through kind of what all you have available to you, right? So audio-wise, I've got quite a few things. FM, AM, Sirius XM. I've got USBs that I can plug into. I've got Bluetooth, Pandora compatibility. If you're a Spotify guy like me, no worries. I'm going to show you how that works in a minute. And of course, I have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto that I can take advantage of as well, right? So a lot going on audio-wise. Now, info-wise, this is just going to be tripometer information. And then I can also go to like a clock and wallpaper. So if you want to load up a custom image, you absolutely can. If you want to learn some tips and tricks on the car, some different things, some hidden menus, stuff like that, I will mention that I do have a tips and tricks video, which I'll throw up there on the screen so that you can see that. I would definitely recommend taking advantage of it because there's some really cool stuff in there. Now, moving past that, Honda Link, this is set up to where, it'll give you some different advantages to take it, to use as far as subscription based, right? So if you're in the very top end of a model, you can unlock the car from your phone, you can start the car from your phone, not gonna really exist in the EX model. However, what you can take advantage of in this model is the ability to, when you connect to your phone, it'll prompt you, hey, in the event that you get in an accident, would you like it to be set up to be able to call down to you? If you don't answer, they can call 911 for you. And of course, give 911, right, the year, make, model, VIN, and color, that sort of thing. So 100% free, take advantage of that, especially if you're in these lower end models that don't offer all these subscription based options, right? If you want to learn more about Honda Link, just go to hondalink.com. Now, phone-wise, you can connect to the phone, pretty easy to do. If you've never connected one, it'll prompt you, yes, you'd like to add a phone, no big deal, and you can go from there. Now, if you were adding a second, third, or fourth phone on, you could simply jump into the settings. When you get in here, go to Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, and then from there, hey, I want to add something to the Bluetooth device list, right? So not hard to work through this. Now, smartphone connection is going to play a role, right? This is going to be where I can plug in my phone and use Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, which is nice and all, but maybe you want wireless CarPlay, or maybe you want some of those abilities and those extra apps that aren't available to you through CarPlay, things like Netflix, Amazon Prime, all these different cool features that you want to take advantage of. Well, that's where this comes in. The guys at One Car Stereo sent me over this, and you can tell how new it is because it still has the plastic on it, right? Now, I'm gonna plug this up here in a minute and I will show you some things, but if you wanna see the whole video I'm creating it, that will be kind of one of my next videos coming out. This thing is awesome. It'll make it wireless CarPlay or Android Auto, and it will unlock several different apps, including things like Netflix and all these different things, where previous to this, you'd have had to do this Honda hack thing, buy this part, download the software, upload it to the car, all this wild nonsense. This you just plug in. So as promised, I want to give you a little teaser of what the one car stereo box can actually do. So you'll see right here, my phone not connected. I'm going to set this up here, but I have Apple CarPlay or Android Auto wireless connectivity right through that box. Now, when I connect into it, right, I've jumped over here. I'm in my Spotify account here, but just to show you some of the things that you can do here on it, I've customized the background, and I've downloaded some of those apps that you wouldn't normally be able to have in your car. Things like Instagram, Waze, what Waze you could get, TikTok, Zedge, VLC, Netflix if I want it, right? If I want to jump in and be able to watch something on here, I absolutely could. Very easy to use and take advantage of. A very cool box. It does have some pluses, it does have some minuses, and that's what we're gonna go over next when I go deep dive into this in my next video, so just be aware of that. But I want you to know that there is something out there that exists that allows you to do a little bit more with your Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. So let's flip over to just the classic CarPlay and show you a couple things. So now I've connected up my phone with the cord to the USB down there, and I'm gonna jump into Android Auto. So same setup, just a different display as far as what you're gonna see on here. And of course, it limits you to all the available apps that you can take advantage of. No big deal though. If you're just simply using this, you don't wanna pay for auxiliary items to do this, you still get quite a bit out of this, right? I still have access to Google Maps, Waze, Apple Maps if you're an Apple user, Spotify, Pandora, anything audio-wise that I want to download, right? I can get to my Messenger, I can get to Teams, YouTube, several different things on here, and I can customize this and set up backgrounds and move apps and things around. If you want to know more about customizing this and the different things you can do, like I said earlier, I would recommend that you obviously check out my tips and trips video because I do go over quite a bit related to the stereo. So if you're not familiar with this, just know that that's what this is going to do. Allow you to access things like your mapping systems, your audio, and several other things. It's just a catch that you do have to plug it in, and it does limit some of those apps you can take advantage of. All right, guys, so we've pretty much made it through the entire car as far as looking over things and talking about comparisons. Before I walk you back through every single comparison that we did, I want to ask you for a quick favor. One, I hope you'll press the like button. Of course, I hope you'll subscribe to the channel. If nothing more than my sweet-ass obnoxious shirts, how about the fact that I do a pretty good job of comparing this car to other vehicles out there in the market? At least I believe so, right? So let's hop in and talk about everything. So I'm gonna start you at the front of the car and work our way back. So underneath the hood, you have a 1.5 liter turboed engine, right? That's putting out 190 horsepower and 179 feet-pound of torque. So I'm gonna throw that comparison back up to the screen so you can see how this car stacks up to other vehicles out there in the market. Now, when it comes to horsepower, you gotta think miles per gallon as well. This car gets 20 to the city and 34 on the highway, combined being 30. Of course, you can get that all-wheel drive model, but you're losing a little bit, or you can jump over to that CR-V hybrid. So it's some other option, but I want to talk about how this car stacks up to other vehicles out there in the market, so I'm gonna throw that comparison up as well. Now, once you move into the front seat, you've got 41.4 or 3 inches of leg space, so quite a bit up here for bigger guys. You'll be plenty good. So I want to throw that comparison up so you see how this car, as far as space in the front row, compares to other vehicles out there. Now, when you jump into the second row, you've got 40.4 inches of leg space. Quite a bit. If I'm sitting behind somebody like my size, I have plenty of space back there. We can take a long road trip and I'll be just fine. Now, I want to throw that comparison up so you can see how this car, second row, stacks up to other vehicles out there in the market. Now, from there, we move back into the cargo space. So the first cargo space is, of course, with the seats folded up, and that is 39.2 cubic feet of space. So I want to see that comparison as to how this car stacks up to other vehicles out there in the market, and I'll try not to spit on the lens because that's a thing. Outside of that, if you flip the seats down, I want to see you have 75.8 cubic feet, and then I'll throw a comparison up so you can see how this car stacks up to other vehicles if you're flipping the seats all the way down. I love that they're super flat back there because you can camp in your car if you want to, right? So if you live somewhere and you want to do that, know that these fold flat enough that it actually makes it very doable, right? You've got all kinds of different Honda sensing features in the car. You know, collision mitigation, braking, road departure mitigation, lane keep assist, adaptive cruise control, regular cruise control, 6 airbags in the car, several different things. And then Honda's got all kinds of different, advanced architecture as to how the car crinkles when you get in wrecks and things like that. It's actually called Ace Body Structure if you ever want to look it up. Now, outside of that, I like the touchscreen. It is very intuitive, very easy to work through, whether you're someone who's 22, who's very, inclined to audio and in technology, or maybe you're somebody who's 72, who's struggles just to get their phone connected up to Bluetooth. Now, related to that, I do want to point out that, of course, you can connect up wired to get Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, or I will be doing a video over the one car stereo box here coming out soon. It is a little bit expensive, but it does offer some really cool features, but I'm going to go over the pluses and the minuses, so keep an eye out for one of my next videos. That will be it. Outside of that, do I like this car? I love this car. I sold one to my mom, to be honest, when I was still selling vehicles. I think everyone could find something great in this car. If you're someone who's older, it's a lateral climb in. You're not climbing up, you're not climbing down. I like it for that reason. As far as gas mileage goes, this is great for an SUV. You got plenty of space if you're someone who likes to take a lot of road trips, you're an active person. You're always carrying around bags and different things. You've got plenty of space here. You fold the seats down. If you got a dog like me, you can easily cover these seats if you want, or just flip them down and let your dog kind of roam around in the back. So it just works for a lot of people for a lot of different reasons. They hold their value pretty darn well, and they run for almost ever. I want to say there's one of this dealership that has like 400,000 miles on it that they have over in their service department. So it is a good car. I like this car, and I would recommend this car to pretty much anyone that I would ever meet. Outside of that, I appreciate you watching. I hope you do a couple things. Hit that like button for me because, of course, it makes me feel good inside. And, of course, I want to push this video a little bit higher up that search bar. Secondary, I hope you'll subscribe to the channel so you can see videos, you know, like this one or on this box that I got coming out soon. And then, of course, you know, I hope that you'll share the video, right? If you're in a forum, if you're in a group, I hope that you'll share this with guys like, hey, man, this guy actually does a good review compared to some other cars, and he talks about some cool technology. He has other things on his channel. Outside of that, like it, subscribe, share, and all of the things. Later, guys!